Good morning, everyone. So I've been waiting to 11:11 on the 11th day of November. So I thought, how auspicious, the 11:11:11:11. So we know the ones, especially today, with all the ones, it really is, it's a power number, it's a master number. It's also associated with, good fortune, with luck, with things like that. So it's a really powerful and potent window or portal, if you will. Hey, Cora, how are you? So I was going to do it at 11. I thought I want to wait to 11:11. Hi. So I just sort of thought, yeah, that'd be really cool. And of course, we're going to discuss all things intuition. We're going to look at some ways that you can really start enhancing and practicing to use your intuitive muscle. And it's funny, I always say that to everyone, don't forget we are all naturally intuitive, but it's one of those things for most of us as children, we're not really encouraged to develop our sixth sense, so to speak. Most of us, I know, if ever, like I used to always have kind of, visions and I just know something was going to happen, or I white bubble the house and, and I just had this real hunger for learning about spirituality. And my dad's an atheist, and my mum's sort of not really into it. So, it's one of those things is that it was never really encouraged. And that's the same with a lot of us. And, it's just something over time that naturally I was very curious about. And of course, I was naturally intuitive in the sense that, all these things were coming up and I was kind of just not knowing about it. And that's the same with a lot of us. So as I said, it just doesn't have a chance to develop and strengthen. If you're there, say hey. I'd love to see who's there and where you're tuning in from. And of course, if you're catching the replay, do the hashtag replay. But we're just saying, as I said, it's also something, it's like the gym. I always say to people, you don't go to the gym once and have a tone fit body for life. We know that. It's the same with your intuition. It's not like, I don't know, you go and have one psychic reading and all of a sudden you're intuitive, or you go to one class and all of a sudden you're really intuitive. It doesn't really necessarily happen like that for most people. It is something that you've got to practice. And I know for myself, hi, I can see someone else has just jumped on. I know for myself, as I said, I was always curious. I always just naturally had these things that happen. But, I consciously also went to psychic development circles. So, it's usually called something like that. So you can check your locals. And obviously now there's Zoom. This is back in the early 2000s. So, it was actually going to someone's house. Now, of course, there's all these things online. Hi. And, these psychic development circles are great because it's an opportunity to sit with like-minded people and there's no judgment and you're all just on this path of, being curious, being sort of, maybe obviously naturally inclined that way to want to gravitate towards, developing intuition and things like that. And so that's what we do. We literally each fortnight meet up for a few hours on a Wednesday night. And it was in, as I said, someone's house. She was a medium. She was a channel. She was really quite intuitive. And we just, do things like whether it was practicing tuning into people's auras, or whether it was practicing reading jewelry, reading photos. We'd learn a little bit about just channeling and things like that. So it was great to actually be in that environment where you're, as I said, around like-minded people. There's no judgment. You're just all there to, I guess, really refine and strengthen this intuitive capability. And I also then went to a 1-year metaphysical mastery course, and that was about 3 or 4 hours every Saturday. And that was back in 2007, I think it was. And that was also another opportunity where, once again, around like-minded people, and it was something, once again, we'd practice connecting, we'd have a channel external to us. We learnt to work with our higher self. We also, once again, would work with, tuning into people's auras, making talismans, and, really all those kind of things in terms of just developing our intuition further and further. So you can kind of see here, as I said, yes, we've naturally got that capability, but, it's like with anything, you've got to practice it and have the intention and the commitment to, really strengthening it further. So, and then I also studied with a few medical intuitives as well. So as I said, it was something I really had a desire to strengthen even further. Now, that's a few pieces, as I said, that can really help you just in terms of things like, as I said, realizing it's very natural, but it is something that, you probably might need to practice, to really be able to strengthen it, as with anything. So that's the first piece there. The second thing is there's also, it's like with anything that you're trying to manifest in life, it's great to have that intention and the desire, but you've got to clear the resistance, clear what's in the way to it actually happening. So for a lot of people, there is actually a fear. There's a lot of, so when I say about, there's blocks and resistance, there is a fear with some people of, I guess seeing the future, what that fear of the unknown, what people might tap into. So sometimes people will say that they're scared to go and see a psychic or, to do anything sort of psychic related because they are scared of what they might find out. And, so it's one of those things. There could be a real fear, real block there. And also for a lot of us, there is fears around because a lot of religions will kind of put that fear into you. And it even, people will reference, I know at one stage I was going to Hillsong and I went to this Bible study group, and I know that they'd said that to me, you need to, be forgiven for your sins. And it says there in the Bible that it's, it's to do with the devil and all of that. So, for a lot of people, there is a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, all of that around, being psychic. And it's one of those things, you kind of think, well, why is that capability there? And I always do say it's good practice. So how it's good practice. If you're going to the gym, a PT will tell you, in fact, my Radiant Woman series, I did have a PT, Terry, who's also a gym owner. And, she gave a couple of tips in terms of, when you're working out, it's good to work that opposing muscle group. So, you're always working on the abs, you want to be then also working on the lower back area, that kind of thing. And same thing in terms of stretching, doing those dynamic stretches pre and post workout. And it's the same with, when you're using your intuition and you're doing a reading or, that sort of thing. A good practice is to just, protect yourself. So it's just having the intention that, I'm protected at all times. You might want to imagine like almost a Fabergé egg around you. And that's kind of like a protective energetic seal, so to speak. Also, you might want to have a nice little sort of prayer and also, once again, make the intention, the request that you are connecting, to your highest self, your highest guides, the highest wisdom, always through divine love, that sort of thing. It's just good practice, as I said. It's like with anything, really. There's good ways to do things, and there's ways that you can be a bit, unclean in terms of doing it, if that makes sense. So there's just a few things for you. Also, just when it comes to, and I kind of touched on this in the training I did yesterday when it comes to what's driving stress, just be really conscious of what your thoughts and your words are when it comes to even intuition. Because, people will often say, I'm not intuitive, no, I can't do that. Or they're thinking it, they're saying it to themselves, they're saying it to others. So you are speaking these things into your reality. And of course, the subconscious mind will prove you right every time. So that's another piece of the puzzle just to be mindful of, that could be in itself stopping you from really further strengthening and honing in on your intuition. And then, of course, it's becoming mindful of, people are intuitive in different ways. Some people are clairvoyant, there's clairsentient, clairaudio, claircognizant. So with the different ones, it's like, you can just feel, you get a strong feeling. And it's like even, I know myself, I've got quite a few of these clairs developed. And, it's through intention, through practice, and obviously through naturally having that ability as well, that it's one of those things that I can go into a doctor's surgery and start feeling people's symptoms. Or you guys know when I do readings that sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm just getting something in my left knee. Like it's like I start feeling that symptom of someone. So, you can be clairsentient, you can be clairaudio. It's almost like you hear the message coming in. Or there can be that clairvoyant, where you just kind of got that strong knowing. It's almost like it just comes and you just know. And it's really left field. It's like it wasn't there before. It's really quite random. So, a little exercise you can do, and if you want to do this now together, is just close your eyes for me. And I want you just to sort of start to just relax. And just bring to mind a holiday that you might have been on. And it could be in recent times, it could be in years gone by. But I want you to think about a particular holiday place. So just imagine that you're there and you're having a great time. Just become aware of, what's around you. And just imagine, as I said, you're really fully there, so you can really dial it all up, all your senses. And then now you can just come back to the here and the now. And just with that, I just want you to think about what is it that stood out most for you. Was it like the sounds that you were aware of? Was it the smells? Did you feel, the feelings of being there? Like what was it that kind of really stood out for you as being the strongest sense? Because there's ways, as I said, like that you can start realizing maybe that's more of my predominant clear way of, being intuitive. So that's something that you can just kind of really become more mindful of. And as I said, some people are really strong in one, others are kind of strong in a few of them. So in terms of practicing, things that you can do, you can start, and I know it's kind of different these days because obviously we can see with our mobile straight away who it is. But, next time your mobile rings, or buzzes or vibrates or whatever, you've got it on, just kind of like, don't have a look at the display, just have a look and sort of tune into, okay, so who is it? And also things like when you're watching a show, quite often, and I know it annoys Richard, but, I'll sort of just tune into what they're going to say next, or what's going to happen. Or even like with the block the other day, like with the different contestants, it was like Richard said, oh, they don't really have a chance. I'm like, no, they're going to go do really well. They're going to sort of, I get in the 400s, they're going to make in terms of profit. And it was true, so it's like, but I had that intention beforehand that I started to tune into it. So, you can practice like that. You can practice with even reading jewelry. So you can even just get some of your own jewelry. You can get partners' jewelry, friends' jewelry. Always, have their permission and, don't just sort of start willy-nilly, going around kind of reading people's jewelry. Karen, hi, how are you? Just looking at strengthening intuition, ways that you can do that. So I'm just talking about in terms of practicing. So, we're saying about, don't look at your phone display when it rings and just kind of, tune in. Who is it? When you're watching a show, tune in. What are they going to say next? Who's going to win the show? Whatever. Because it's all predetermined. So you're just tuning into that. Same with reading jewelry. As I said, read your jewelry. You can read someone else's if you have their permission. That's all just things that you can do. When I worked at Safra, this Lebanese restaurant in Parramatta at one point, I would just connect with people's jewelry. And yeah, it's a bit gimmicky, but sometimes people like to see that because I was like the Saturday night fortune teller and, they'd had different readers on each weekend. But, that's what I would do. I'd get someone's jewelry because when you've got someone's jewelry or you've got their watch or you've got, whatever, it's been on them. It's been in their energy field. It's almost like it's imprinted with, with their energy, like what's going on in their life. So that's something else that you can do. I can see someone else has just jumped on. Say hey if you're there. So we're just talking all things intuition here, what you can do to really strengthen and develop it. Also, you can practice with things like photos. So that was something when I worked with this medical intuitive, I went to one of her retreats in Queensland. This is years ago. And she'd get us to also do that. So get some photos. And I mean, some photos have writing on the back. But, you could get some photos, have them sort of face down, maybe just pick one up and then just put it, you can put it on your heart chakra, your chest, or you don't even have to. You can just keep it, focused like flat down and then just start tuning in and then just start seeing what comes up. So, do you just start getting any impressions? Do you get a feeling? Do you get sort of like visions coming up? Do you get a memory? Does a face pop up in your, in your mind straight away? Like all these things are just ways that, you just start becoming aware of, okay, so this is like something popping in here. So that's something else that you can do. Also, you can practice, of course, reading cards. I mean, cards is huge at the moment. I can't get online at the moment without someone doing, card pulls and things like that. And of course, I've started doing it the last couple of weeks in my reads, as you know. But when I learnt, hey, Sarah, when I learnt how to do tarot and read cards, yeah, it's fine to have the actual meaning because, often with a tarot deck, they will give you the meanings or you can look it up online. There's cheat sheets and things like that. But, I was always taught as well to, obviously always have the intention, you might want to ask a question. It could be quite general. It could be about a specific area. So, you might want to ask about what are the next steps in attracting and, new clients, for instance, and just or something like that and just sort of see the card that comes. And it's like, oh, okay, so it's 5 of Pentacles. So, of course, you can look up, you know, the Pentacles and the Earth and the money and things like that. And then I actually will look literally at the card and sort of start just tuning in to sort of the details and what starts popping up. So in terms of here, I mean, yeah, I am seeing opportunities. I am seeing money. I am seeing, you know, things like that coming up on the horizon. But I'm also seeing, interestingly, you know, there's a mother with a baby. So, you know, obviously that is my demographic. And I'm sure for some of the women working here in these circles, that's also your demographic. But looking at it, you can even start looking at, you know, the details on their face and just things that stand out to you. Because once again, it's just kind of ways that, you know, your guidance, your highest guidance is communicating with you. So sometimes, you know, as I said, it could be just looking at that and all of a sudden they're going to highlight certain things. So when I do readings, certain things will be highlighted. So even here, it's like I'm seeing, you know, and you can sort of see this gold coming through. And, you know, to me, that's kind of also symbolic of really further tuning into energy, to higher guidance, to intuition, to higher intelligence, and really letting that be a key part of who's coming in and next steps. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about that question. So you can sort of see how, as I said, you can start bringing this into, okay, I can start refining this, and also bearing in mind that it's an interpretation thing as well. So, you know, your guidance is going to try and communicate with you in a way that means something to you because you're the one that has to get it to that person, if that makes sense. If I don't know, I will often, as you know, if you've seen my Wednesday night psychic readings, I will sort of say to the person, look, this is what I'm getting. Does this make sense? And then, you know, I might try, let me just see if they say no, I'll get more information. Okay, so it was October. I'm seeing a birthday celebration. There's a male, he's dark haired, you know, oh, okay, that's such and such. It's like, so, you know, you can sometimes just literally, if you're not 100% sure on how to interpret it, give them as much of what you're seeing as possible, and that helps them. But as I said, your guidance is communicating with you because they want to help you interpret it, if that makes sense. So it's like, I remember one of the very first readings I did, this is back in 2002 maybe, and I remember once again in this psychic development circle, and I was reading for this lady, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Because, you know, it's always a leap of faith. It's not like with my herbs, my nutrition, you know, with anything like that, where you've got this knowledge behind you and you can check things out. Doing a reading, it's just a leap of faith because, you know, you don't know what's going to come through. You don't know if anything's going to come through. You know, it's just really having the faith that I'm just trusting something's going to come through and it's going to help this person. And that's always my intention. Anyway, but as I said, this is way back then. And I remember with this lady, and I was getting the song, the Offspring song, you know, you've got to keep them separated. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, you know, have I just heard this song on the radio? Why is this coming up? And I thought, this is coming through strong. I'm just going to have to go with it. And as I started talking, more of the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. You probably notice that's what happens on a Wednesday night when I do the reading, same thing. You start talking and just more comes to light. So I started saying that to her, look, I'm kind of getting that, you know, and as I was saying it, it was like I was seeing an image of like her son and, you know, a partner. And of course, then it started making sense with, you know, you've got to keep them separated. And I said that to her. I said, like, I feel like, you know, you're intervening here because you want what's best for your son, but he doesn't want what you want in this scenario or something like that. And I remember she was just like, wow, okay, you're so right. And I thought, oh, okay, that's good. But I thought, you know, she was a lot older as well at the time. So I was, say, you know, I don't know, early 20s, whatever it was. And, you know, she was in her, I'm going to say maybe late 50s, early 60s potentially. And I kind of thought, you know, once again, Offspring, that song, that's not probably going to mean anything to her, but it did to me because I kind of knew the song, I knew the words, I got the gist of what it was about, so I could relay it to her. So, you know, if that makes sense. So I was also encouraged when I was doing this at this psychic development circle that, you know, it's a great idea to keep like a little, you know, like an A to Z little, you know, booklet with you, and you can actually almost write down once you start seeing reoccurring symbols, because they'll start almost sending these same symbols to you because they know, oh, good, okay, she understands what we mean by that. So it could be like a medical symbol, or it could be, so like I know a couple of years back, someone was asking me about a potential job, and I was getting the medical symbol, and I was getting hospital and, a particular, area and all of that. And that's what she said, yeah, it is actually in a hospital. And it was like, oh, good. So they've got to try and, as I said, communicate in a way that I can relay it, or you, in that case. So hopefully, as I said, this is all making sense. I just wanted to give you some information on just to realize that, we are all naturally intuitive, but hey, as with anything, there is often resistance and blocks in the way. We have fears, fears what we might see, fears of we might be punished because as children we were taught by churches and religious systems that, it's demonic or it's evil, or you don't know what you're tapping into. Also, what are your thoughts and your words like when it comes to you saying and thinking, I'm not intuitive, I can't do that, other people are more intuitive than me? Once again, it's all going to be shown, reflected back to you. Practice, practice, practice. That's what I did for years, and then I let it go for a while. And of course, in more recent years, I've just been doing it more and more, and it does become stronger and you start to feel more comfortable with it. It's like with anything, in early days, you won't necessarily feel comfortable with it, but over time, you will start to feel more comfortable, more trust, more faith. So there's that. And as I said, just good, diligent practice just to, protect yourself. You might, just ground afterwards. You might even want to use the sage. You might even want to have a shower and just kind of, imagine that you're rinsing off anything that you've picked up. You can physically disconnect from your client. So you can imagine that you're just, you're grounding, you're disconnecting, and, just kind of imagining that they're just sent in love and light. So you're not retaining any of their energy. And, of course, always just having that intention, that request, that prayer to God, to your higher self, to your highest guides, that, it's always through divine love, the messages that are coming through. And as I said, you might even want to be, find a group of like-minded people and just sort of practice. But yeah, as I said, let me know if this has kind of been interesting for you, if it served you in different ways. It is something, it is fun, but as I said, it's something that, you've also, I guess, got to be careful, and I'm often mindful of that too, especially, one-on-one to an extent, but obviously when you're doing it in groups, you've got to be careful because sometimes things are coming through and you don't want to say that in front of the person. So sometimes you'll probably see that I'm kind of trying to work out how I can tactfully say it, and that's the reality too. So, and it is often much easier to read for other people than it is for yourself because, of course, you're so attached to it and you've got your own resistances and your own blocks and things like that. So, it can be much easier to read for someone else too. So anyway, as I said, just, think about that and let me know if that kind of serves you, and have a great rest of the 11th, portal, and let me know what shows up for you. Always, Belinda, you bring together so much rich information, thinking, oh, thank you, yeah. And as I said, it's something that, being in the, I don't know if you're familiar with human design, I'm a 1-3 profile. So that's very much inbuilt into me, that kind of need to study and to learn and to look at things from different angles and to really have that strong foundation in it before I want to share it. And so it's kind of something there that I like doing, but also in my human design, I do have one of the most intuitive, or the intuitive gate, 57, I think it is, in the human design there as well. So, it's there, and, people will, I don't know, as I said, say that, it's something that, I don't know, I'm not intuitive or rah, but we are all intuitive. So as I said, just be conscious of those thoughts and words to the contrary and, upgrade them. Start choosing to believe I am intuitive and, clear that resistance, practice, have that good energetic spiritual practices in place that we discussed, and let me know how you go. Okay, lots of love. Bye.